Hi, this is Jim Feist in Las Vegas. I'm on a 56-32 college basketball run, including my tournament game of the year last week on Rhode Island, and they defeated Creighton 84-72. I have plays daily on Vegas Sports Masters. That's right, Vegas Sports Masters, including my college bailout game of the month on Thursday and a backboard buster game of the month Friday, each for $25. I also have a tournament special, the rest of the college hoops. That's right, the rest of the college hoops, including the Sweet 16 for $49, and both of those games of the month. That's right, all those games plus the games of the month by calling Vegas Sports Masters at 888-777-4155. I'll repeat that, 888-777-4155, 4155. Now stay tuned as Dave Cokin and I preview the Sweet 16 on Proline.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Proline Daily, the longest running sports handicapping show in America, direct from Las Vegas. It is Sweet 16 day today. We get the real good stuff in this tournament getting underway today and tonight, and we'll get into some of these showdowns. And Jim, speaking of pros versus Joes, today is a day where, now there is some tomorrow, but today's a day where I think the books are very happy with the way things are going in terms of the action, because the most public side today is Kansas, but it's not a really sharp square deal. And the sharpest side, I would say, based on what I'm getting information, is Michigan. Now that doesn't mean these games are going to win or lose or anything else. You always recommend I really don't care what people bet. I'm going to make the analysis myself and go with that. But it's good information to have, that's for sure.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, we'll look at the line movements. Kansas, this is unfair. Of course, it's unfair. Everybody knows that the committee did a terrible job with seating and locations and stuff. Kansas is actually playing on a court that they've played on before, and they're actually very close to home. So it's a big advantage there for fans and the familiarity with sight lines and the rims and everything else. So that's an unfair advantage, and that's probably why you're getting a little bit more money on Kansas than otherwise you might. Michigan, of course, ever since they had that plane mishap, they've been on fire and just destroying people. And of course, Oregon's very good too, and they're rated higher and everything. So you got a 7 team, a rated 7 team favored over a 3, which has happened. We've had that in this tournament where we've had a 12 favored over a 5. You know, when we had Middle Tennessee in the mix.
Right. And of course, you actually had a big favorite on a 10 versus 7, which was Wichita State.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I mean, the committee did a terrible job, but that's beside the point. Now we're here. We're down to the 16, and Gonzaga's taking money today, Dave. I've seen this line. It's now painted across the board, 3.5 everywhere. And in the beginning, the interesting thing about that game, now we all know that Gonzaga is rated higher, so it's not unusual that they'd be the favorite. But going into making the numbers, a lot of people felt that West Virginia should be the favorite because of the way Gonzaga had played the first 2 games. They were not very impressive. But it is 3.5, and the total has gone up substantially as well. On that game, it was open 47. It's up to 150. The other totals in the first 2 games really haven't had that much movement. Another game here, you got Xavier playing Arizona. Now, Xavier is really a team that when they lost Sumner, who's a really, really good player and headed for the pros, I think he blew out an ACL. And when they lost him, they went in a tailspin for about 6 games.
Yep.
But they've gotten hot lately. And now they're going up against an Arizona team in San Jose, which is kind of a little bit of an edge for Arizona to getting fans there, of course, because it's closer. But it's not that big of a deal. Arizona's a 7.5-point favorite in the game. the total has gone from 43 to 45. That when I say 43 to 40, it's 143 to 145. But
actually, I'm now seeing at the Westgate, and Westgate's a pretty sharp house. They've now gone to 146 on that game. But the interesting thing is, at Pinnacle, it's 144 and a half, and the under is still the favorite.
I do see that. And then I'm looking at Chris, which 145. So you're seeing differences out there. You know, of course, everybody has different players and different biases. So it's not always going to be the same thing. There's a lot of players out there, especially when you get to the Sweet 16 or the Super Bowl or anything like that. You get a lot of action from a lot of different people. And even marginal money, when it adds up to thousands and thousands of people playing in one direction, it can make a change. Now you go to Friday. I don't know if we're talking about Friday games today also.
Hey, why not?
Okay.
We go to Friday. Whatever we want.
Well, we can talk about next year's Super Bowl and see whose jersey is going to be stolen and how much is it going to be worth, and which foreign citizen is going to steal it.
Now, you know, on Friday we are seeing some sharp. I think it's more divided tomorrow in terms of sharp money. There's a couple of sides that are clearly getting the sharper play, and Florida is one of them, and Kentucky's the other one.
Let's see. Kentucky opened at a couple different spots, and this is interesting because UCLA opened 1 at Pinnacle, and at Chris it opened 1.5 Kentucky. So they both have switched. Now the opposite is favored at each one. So Chris has got 1 on UCLA, and Pinnacle's got 1 on Kentucky. Now that's not talking about the local books here. There's also a lot of pick'ems out there, which
yes, there are.
Makes sense.
We're still, I mean, it's a fascinating game because it really doesn't make a big difference who's the one. Game's obviously not going to end in a tie anyway. But you don't often see games of this magnitude where, and I'm seeing 2 of, I would say these are respected books offshore. Pinnacle, as you mentioned, Kentucky's a 1-point favorite, whereas Grandy, which does get some sharp action, Grandy has UCLA a 1-point favorite. William Hill locally is I think they're the only local. Now the Win also has UCLA 1. Those would be considered, well, not the Win, but William Hill, I think, would be considered more of a public house. They have a tremendous volume. With the number of books that they have in Nevada. William Hill's got over 100 locations. So they draw huge dollars. But that's why it's considered more of a public house because of the volume they generate. So that doesn't mean
you might add something in there, Dave, is that we are basically a suburb of Los Angeles here. And there's
Correct.
A lot of people that come in for these games, to watch these games and bet them. It's an exciting time here in Las Vegas for the books and for the city. But there's a lot of California people that just drive here. It's very easy for them to do that. So you're going to get bias betting on the California teams. And I would predict here in Las Vegas, you'll see UCLA being the favorite by tip-off. And other places away, it might be the opposite on Kentucky.
Yeah, I would say so. I think the only game right now of the 8 games today and tomorrow, and again, this doesn't mean the sharps are right and the public's wrong, but I think the biggest, if you want to call it a pros versus Joes split, is probably on the Wisconsin-Florida game, where the from what I'm gathering from my sources, the ticket volume is on Wisconsin, the more serious money is on the Gators.
That's probably so, because I'm looking at 60% of the bets going on Wisconsin, but the money is going up on Florida. Let me go back to that scale on the because there's been quite a bit of movement on Gonzaga from 3 to 3.5, but that's interesting because 55%, which isn't very much of a split, is on West Virginia. That means the number. That means the number of tickets.
I'm actually not. I see that figure from Chris, but I have other contacts as well. and they're actually running a little heavier on the Gonzaga side, both ticket and money.
Really?
Yeah. I'm seeing one of my houses is 57, another one's 54, and another one's 60, actually, on Gonzaga. So Chris, I'm not saying Chris is wrong, because those are their figures, and Chris is a big book in terms of volume. But that there doesn't seem to be unanimous consent across the board as to where the ticket count is on that one. The two games where I think the ticket count is the most clear today are Kansas by a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, Kansas is by far the most public side, and Michigan. But Michigan's also getting sharp play, both the sharps and the squares, if you want to call it that, both lining up more on the Wolverines than the Ducks.
That I totally agree with that, and I also think that Kansas may be getting sharp money too, not only popular because they are playing basically at home, and that does add up to more victories than not. And Kansas is a pretty good team. I mean, they are a team right now would probably be the clear favorite to win it all because they're getting this game at home.
Yeah, although I don't know if I want to get in Michigan's way right now. It's a game I didn't play today. I stayed out of the Michigan-Oregon game. But I know I would have a very difficult time checking any of my apps that I have and actually putting a check mark next to Michigan and then a dollar amount. I just, or excuse me, next to Oregon. The Michigan team just, maybe it is destiny, Jim. I mean, you can't measure that, but what's happening with this team is pretty remarkable.
Well, first of all, let's get down to, we look at the coaches in these 8 games. Michigan's coach is pretty damn good. He knows what he's doing. Now, I'm not saying anything against Oregon's coach, but this Michigan coach gets the most out of his players. And right now they have the chemistry, they might have the karma, and they might have destiny on their side. That is a possibility. But when you watch them play, they're pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a lot of flaws on this team, so it's not a fluke.
No, motivation only takes you so far. I mean, it's a great intangible, but if you don't have the horses, you're not going to. The wins will eventually stop, and they haven't stopped for Michigan. I mean, this is a long winning streak this team's on, and that's another thing that should be pointed out is that a lot of the money on Michigan that's showing is house money that's already been won, by people who got on Michigan early and are just keeping on the Wolverines. And you know what? Why would you get off them at this point?
Why get off the train? I mean, they're playing great. We didn't talk at all about the Butler, North Carolina game. And there's one other mention I want to mention on the UCLA Kentucky game. This is actually the biggest line move of the week in these 8 games, but it's on the total. The game opened 169.5, and it's down to 165.5. That is a huge drop for a total. That's basically saying that the odds makers that made the number were way off base. And Is there any explanation as to why the game would be bet under and would end up under?
Well, I think that, Kentucky is a very good defensive basketball team. And I'm sure Calipari, while he's got great athletes, I think the opinion is that his approach is going to be to try and slow UCLA down, which makes perfect sense. I don't think, if you get into a running and shooting match with UCLA, you're probably going to be in trouble because that's what they do best. And I think I guess it's probably also worth mentioning that UCLA's defense, while it's not great, has improved down the stretch. I mean, it's not like they're an awful defensive basketball team at this point. Let me check one thing, in fact. This will take me 1 second, but I just want to see where KenPom, which has great metric numbers, their analytics are absolutely sensational. They've got UCLA 77th defensively, adjusted defensive. So, that's not good, but it's better than it was. Because at one time they were in triple figures. But they are, and by the way, the other team that's close to them in terms of defensive efficiency or lack of same was actually Michigan. So it tells you that, you can't, and we know that Michigan's playing great defense now. So the point is that these numbers can't reflect the improvement those teams have made, because all the stats are counted in when these are made, when these numbers are compiled, and it's not just the last 2 weeks. So you have to take those numbers with a grain of salt.
Well, that's true, Dave, and it's one of the things that I look at when I'm looking at all sports. Is there's long seasons out there, and these guys started playing back in October, November, and it's certainly not at all the same teams that started the season. They've improved, or they digressed, or their injuries, et cetera, et cetera. So they all change, and right now, UCLA is the number one efficiency ranking in offense, and I think Oklahoma State was the second one. Of course, I guess if you want to look at what South Carolina's done in the last 2 games, you might pump them up to the top of the ranking after the last couple of games. And they are playing, Baylor, and they scored 65 points in the second half against Duke the other night, Dave, which is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, it sure is. They're playing tremendous basketball. No question about that.
Yeah, there's no movement on that game, really. Baylor might have an uptick a little bit to 3.5, but it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, at least in the short term.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, we definitely urge people to take advantage of the offers we've got, because they're good ones. And also, you can get free plays on a recorded message from our team of Vegas experts, 888-294-1970.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jim Feist Sports, and get free plays daily by texting GAME, that's GAME, to 25827.
And that'll do it for this edition of Proline. We will do it again tomorrow, so be sure and check back. Adios, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. Bye-bye.